Guys, the infamous Nathan Diaz is back in action, UFC 262 here in Houston, Texas. He's taking on Leon Edwards, and Nick and I are talking about that great matchup right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo, yo.
Guys, if you're new here, we talk all things combat sports, so if you're into that stuff, we really appreciate a subscribe and like and comment the video. Thanks so much. So, Nick, getting right into this amazing, surprising, I'll be honest, matchup. I was not expecting the announcement of Nate Diaz's return right now, and I definitely wasn't expecting it to be against Leon Edwards. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, this is always one of those weird type of, great gems that you find online when you're, you refresh your Instagram and then you see Ariel Helwani or one of the other big names in the sports like this just in, and then you get a picture with those two guys' face on it. I was not expecting this in the least. I was, as everybody else is, a little bit starving for Nate Diaz entertainment, and I guess he's going to give us exactly what we want just in the nick of time. Leon Edwards is a very, very tough fight for Nate Diaz. I think bouncing back after quite a long layoff, it's going to be hard for him to just jump right back into basically a top contender's fight at 170. And, Leon, aside from that short little bout he had with Belal Muhammad, it's also been off for a really long time. So It's just it's a very interesting fight. But I will say for two guys that have been relatively inactive, it's certainly a top contender's fight.
Well, if you can believe this, if you discount the Belal Muhammad fight, which I'm not saying that we should, but it was all in all just one round and the eye poke and some weird things happened. But if you discount that fight, Leon Edwards has actually been on a longer layoff than Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
He was summer, July 2019 when he last fought, not counting Belal. And then Nate was November 2019 where he had that doctor stoppage loss against Jorge Masvidal. So all in all, I'm willing to say that these guys, we'll call it a long layoff for both of them.
Yeah, they're both going to be shaking off the cobwebs against each other.
Yeah.
And, Leon, like you said, it was just over one full round of fighting with Belal Muhammad. So he really didn't get to get his groove back in and get back into the fight feel and the fight groove that you're used to from being an active fighter.
If you ask Francis Ngannou, that's an eternity in the octagon. What do you mean he got a full round in there?
I know, right? Yeah, that's odd for him. But, Nate doesn't really seem to be affected by ring rust all that much. It appeared Leon wasn't affected by it in the Belal Muhammad fight, at least for the first round. So I'm interested in seeing how these guys match up against each other. The odds have Leon as a heavy favorite right now. It's like a 3-1, 400 underdog, favorite. But I feel like Nate does have a chance and does pose some problems for him. And you know what? This is also a historical night because we can't forget to say that this is the first non-title co-main event for 5 rounds that the UFC's ever done, which is something really cool. And I think the fans would be deprived of 2 rounds if they only gave us 3-round fight. So I'm glad they saw that and threw us a bone and gave us the extra 2.
I think you're right. I think that we can't just brush over this 5 rounds thing. I think there's actually quite a bit of significance there.
Yeah.
And that tells me that this is a title eliminator fight for both men.
Yeah.
I believe that if it wasn't, it would have just been a 3-round fight. And then if Leon won, it would have been, he would have been ushered into the title. But if Nate won, probably not. They would have looked to have him do something else. But because what other reason would they have to do a 5-round co-main event that's not a title fight?
One thing I love about that, though, is it's the start of something new. Everybody always talks about the analogy of if you can get the door open or the window cracked a little bit, everything else can come through. We can work with what you give us. Just open the door a little bit. And now I think we're going to see more fights have these extra rounds added to them that aren't necessarily title fights, but they're matchups that we just need to see for five rounds. Pretty much anytime Colby Covington's in there, you need to see that for 5 rounds. Anytime, name the fighter. There's
Diaz,
a lot. Yeah. Nate Diaz. You got to see that, and I feel like they're going to start implementing this a little bit more. And this fight feels like the perfect one to introduce this five round non-title fight business into the world of MMA.
I agree. I don't think there will be much ring rust here. Nate Diaz is not known for ring rust. We know Nate Diaz famously runs triathlons. Yeah. He's in incredible shape. I mean, he's a cardio machine.
Yeah, he looks good.
For the little bit of time that we saw Leon Edwards in there against Belal, he looked spectacular. He looked sharp. He had showed no signs of slowing down. Here's the thing. Neither one of these guys get finished.
Yeah.
Leon has never been finished. Nate hasn't been finished since, well, he got doctor stoppaged by Jorge Masvidal. Right. So we can, that is technically a finish. But prior to that, it was 2013 against Gray Maynard. And those were the only 2 times the fight has ever been stopped via TKO or doctor stoppage for Nate Diaz.
Yeah, and he didn't want to, he was the last person in Madison Square Garden that wanted that fight stopped against Jorge Masvidal. So it wasn't like he was looking for a way out and was getting beat up too bad to where he couldn't hang. George was significantly up in that fight, and I feel like he was probably going to continue to run away with it. But Nate goes, man, if you would have let me have those next 2 rounds, I was just starting to kick his ass.
Yeah.
And, that's typical Nate. I love that about him. And unfortunately, he didn't get crowned the BMF with the title, but he absolutely is a BMF, and he's always in the running for that fight. So I feel like this fight screams going to the distance to me.
Yeah.
And
also go ahead and give these guys $50,000 each preemptively, because I guarantee you this is fight of the night.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening as well. If there is a finish, my prediction is that Leon is able to get it done and probably get it done late. Nate's just so hard to he's one of those guys that you literally have to smash him head to toe for several rounds before you even start to see him fade a little bit. And 5 rounds gives Leon enough time to maybe be the first guy to full out stop him since Gray Maynard. But that's going to be a very tough thing to do.
Yeah, and I think if Leon, and I'm leaning the same direction that you're leaning. I think Nate Diaz is always a tough fight for everybody.
Yeah.
He poses a tremendous cardio threat, pressure threat. He's got a good submission game. I don't think he's quite skillfully up to the level of Leon Edwards right now.
Yeah.
I do think that Leon probably gets a late finish, round 4, round 5, and I think the UFC is setting that up. Whether you like that or not, a stoppage over Nate Diaz probably does get you a title fight next. Even though Nate hasn't been that active lately, he's still a big name. And I think in a co-main event slot, if Leon seizes the day, as they say, he will get a title shot next.
Yeah, they're going to make the most of this fight. They're going to promote it well to where the casuals, which make up the vast majority of the people that watch fights, when they see this, they're going to know that these 2 guys are fighting for a shot at a title. And Nate Diaz always matters in this sport. Leon Edwards, you can tell the story to the people that don't know who he is exactly. And all the diehard fans like us, we know he deserves a title fight. But the UFC is so good at storytelling, they can convince everybody else out there that this guy deserves a title fight with a win over the big bad Nate Diaz. I love it. I love the storyline. I think they're going to be really good as far as the trash talk and the banter between the 2 of them. It's going to be fun. And you got 2 certified tough guys. When you go to the X's and O's, I see Leon has really great kicks, really great movement. And Nate Diaz, one thing he's known for is never checking a kick. I don't think ever. And
he doesn't believe in checking kicks, he said.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's not something you want to do against Leon Edwards, because I think he's going to chew his legs up early.
Yeah.
And that's going to really slow Nate Diaz down. And, maybe he'll get it. Maybe we'll see a little bit of ground action between these 2 guys. Leon's a great grappler. Nate's obviously a decorated black belt and does really well on the ground, especially from the bottom.
I think Nate would have the advantage there. I think Leon will probably want to spend as little time on the ground as possible with Nate.
Yeah. But, he's also slightly a bigger guy. Leon is a pretty big guy for the division. And Nate is naturally a 55er that can make 70 and 55. And I just I don't know if Nate's going to be able to come off the bench and take on arguably one of the best 170ers on the planet right now. But if anybody can do it, it's Nate Diaz.
Nate Diaz also came out and said that, guys, I wanted to let you know that I'll be making my return headlining the UFC event in Houston, Texas. Also on the card, Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira will be fighting for my old belt at 155. Gotta love Nate Diaz
Yeah.
and the way he phrases things sometimes. He stays relevant in the sport. And I do think he could win this fight. I don't think it's likely. I think that Leon Edwards, from what I saw against Belal Muhammad, he looked like a fighter. He looked pretty damn good against RDA back in San Antonio.
Yes.
That was the last live fight that I went to. So I saw that fight in person. And he looked very, very sharp. And so I think that, and then even when I saw him against Belal, he looked even a touch better than that. Yeah. So in the time that he's been off, I truly believe that he has improved his game. You hear a lot of fighters talk all the time about, man, I was just going from fight camp to fight camp to fight camp, and it's like, I got to prepare for a jiu-jitsu guy. Now I got to prepare for a stand-up guy with good kicks. Now I got to prepare for a Russian wrestler. And so it's like you spend these training camps kind of curtailing them to your opponent to some degree. But a lot of fighters will tell you, hey, when I took a year off, I just worked on my skills.
Yeah.
I put my gi on. I went to jiu-jitsu. I went to Muay Thai class. I've got a picture of my short shorts. I've been working on my wrestling. Check out my singlet. You know what I mean? It's like you can really, truly work on your skills without the pressure of having to devise a game plan against a set opponent. And so I think that's why we saw Leon look so good. I hate that this happened for Belal because Belal did nothing wrong in the situation. But at the same time, I will concede that I think Belal was on his way to getting finished.
Yeah, and Belal, good things will happen for Muhammad.
Right.
I don't see him just getting brushed under the rug and the UFC forgetting about him. He did something for them. They're going to do something for him. And, you know, it's going to be hard from here on out. He's a ranked guy in one of the toughest divisions in the entire sport. And it's going to be maybe a Chimaev or a Magny or, you know, a Chiesa. It's going to be a tough night out, but he's going to get his shot at the higher ranked guys, and he deserves it. And nobody, like, you know, we were kind of talking about it the other day. Nobody was really asking for Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. And the fact that they're not doing an immediate rematch for me is totally fine. Now, if Belal's able to climb up the ranks and, you know, maybe Leon stubs his toe once or twice, or, you know, they just wind up a little bit closer in the rankings than 3 and 15, then yeah, let's run that back. I'm sure the fans would love to see it. And it would make sense at that time, but it was not a fight, in my opinion, that required or demanded an immediate rematch.
I think you're right. And just with the caveat being that I hope something good happens for Belal. I hope it didn't demand an immediate rematch, but it did demand a good fight for Belal next in like a co-main event spot, or maybe even headlining a fight night or something like that. You mentioned, you know, not a lot of people who know who Nate Diaz is necessarily know who Leon Edwards is, because there are a lot of casuals that follow certain fighters and they only click buy or turn the TV on when that fighter's fighting. But for those people, the only selling point, as you said, as the UFC begins to market this, hey, this guy Leon Edwards hasn't lost since 2015. Want to know the name of the guy he lost to in 2015? Kamaru Usman. Yeah. That's how good this guy is. So you can sell the fight from that perspective. And I think that while the odds do show Leon heavily favored, I think that they're right. But I do think that this fight is very tough, and it's not an unwinnable fight for Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz loves a good scrap. He loves to stand in. I always say Nate Diaz doesn't even start fighting until you've blackened his eye or busted his lip. He's that kind of guy, and he's going to be there ready for 5 rounds, and he's going to be in Leon's face for 5 rounds. Yeah. So this is a very tough fight for Leon. This is a fight that I think Leon, if he has an outstanding performance, his star will rise tremendously in this sport. Yeah,
Leon needs this fight a whole lot more than Nate Diaz does. Nate Diaz could probably sit on his hands for another 6 months to a year and then still draw into a top 5 guy in either one of the divisions he's active in. And
he's got to fight against Conor McGregor when he wants it, and Jorge Masvidal when he wants it, provided that I think if Jorge wins the belt, it might be a little bit of a different situation. But, you know, when you've got those 2 cards in your back pocket, I want to draw a Conor McGregor or I want to draw a Jorge Masvidal. Pretty much every UFC fighter is envious of that position.
Yeah, and he can also point his cannons at any of the top 3 or 5 55ers or 170ers at any given time. And the UFC is going to agree, and those fighters are damn sure going to agree as well. So he's in a great position. He's giving a guy a great opportunity. And if Leon Edwards is able to seize the moment, then this is going to be a big, big night for him, probably the biggest night of his career. And it will springboard him right into a title fight, in my opinion.
It sure will, and I'm just super happy this fight is in Houston. We're
Yeah.
going to be there. Like I said, it's just coincidence. I'm a Leon Edwards fan, but not like the biggest of all Leon Edwards fans. But it just so happens that the last time I was in a live audience, it was Leon Edwards was main eventing it. The next time I'm in a live audience here in Houston, Leon Edwards will be co-main eventing it. So,
or if you could listen to Nate Diaz main eventing. So.
Well, yeah, according to Nate Diaz, it's the co-main is for his old 155 title.
Yeah. And
Thank
you know
Nate.
what?
Yeah. That's Nate Diaz. # Nate Diaz logic.
Yeah, he might even wind up walking out last. You never know.
It's crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. What do you think about this matchup? This kind of came out of nowhere. Surprised both Nick and I. Let us know in the comments who wins, how do they win, are you excited for this matchup? And check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts, guys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store. We're there, you name it. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.
Peace.